I just crossed over the Placida Bridge going into Boca Grande. I am now on the island, passing over Gasparilla Sound. And as soon as I crossed over the bridge, it instantly smelled like a septic tank. And I'm not even joking. It's horrendous. The smell is horrendous. The red tide was like a week ago today is whenever it started up and came through. Shortly after the Lake Okeechobee discharge.
This is what happens when you combine a divine chastisement with human screw up. You get death. This is devastating. This is on a proportion that we've never seen before in Florida. Welcome to Apocalyptic Weather. Today, we're going to be talking about the consequences of human activity and what happens when they meet a divine wrath of God event. The Lord of the Storms, Lord Rael, has returned. He is the Christ that you read about in the scriptures. He has been judging the world and chastising his own people so that they could wake up, so that they can see the damage that they are causing to themselves, to this earth, to all of humanity, and to every living thing on this planet. What this is the results of an immense amount of rainfall, hurricanes, storms, all directed by Lord Rael, by the divine, being dumped on the Florida, and Florida does not know how to manage their water appropriately. Not enough to stop this from occurring. So the backstory to this actually traces across the last century when large storms, hurricanes were hitting Florida and Lake Okeechobee was flooding its banks and it was causing serious issues. The Army Corps of Engineers decided to come in, build a levee system which would keep Lake Okeechobee's water in place. But what it did is it rerouted all of South Florida's water systems to create the setup for just a terrible economic and ecological disaster. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. Basically, water doesn't flow naturally into the Everglades. Instead, the glades were dried up for sugarcane production. The waste and the excess minerals and materials from the cane production is pumped back into Lake Okeechobee. From the north, you have all of the cattle ranches, dairy farms, orange groves, hog farms. Every agricultural area and agricultural event that you have from the north is flowing south into Lake Okeechobee. And what it's doing is it's causing a blue-green algae to form because you have all of the phosphates, you have all of the waste, you have all of the nutrient that's being pumped into the lake. It's basically like a big cesspool, a sitting retention pond that's baking in a tropical climate. Every day for about 7 or 8 months in Florida, the temperatures are well over 90 degrees. It's a tropical monsoonal climate, so half the year they're seeing intense rainfall, and you also have hurricanes. Now, what the Army Corps of Engineers did is they built a system to channel the water sideways out to either the Gulf of Mexico or out to the Atlantic. The problem is when the lake gets too high, they open those floodgates and it allows for that toxic waste that's sitting in Lake Okeechobee from all of the runoff from various areas, and that includes runoff from developments. There's tons of developments, tons of golf courses, tons of places where they're manicuring the grass and taking care of the landscaping. And so all of that's going into the lake. And then when they open up those dikes, those floodgates, everything flows out of there. So this toxic blue-green algae, which forms in the lake, is now being pumped all across South Florida out to the oceans, and it's causing red tide. It's causing immense wildlife die-offs. I mean, we're seeing this increase. This is not a decreasing problem. They've tried to tackle this problem in years past. It's only gotten worse. And now we're adding on top of that the divine chastisement, the rainfall, the storms, the hurricanes. All of that is causing those lake levels to rise. The rivers get saturated, and so they've got to open those floodgates, and now it's just a toxic sewage waste dump pouring across Florida. People are complaining about itchy eyes, burning eyes and nostrils. People can't breathe in the stuff. They're choking on it. It's causing all sorts of respiratory issues. It can even cause acute liver failure because this stuff is so toxic. What it is it's a cyanobacteria. It's also known as a cyanotoxin. And the word cyanide it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a poison. It's a cyanide poison, and in certain cases, especially for the young or the elderly, the people that are very susceptible, if you go swimming in this or you spend enough time around this crap, you're going to vomit, and it can cause liver failure. There's even long-term effects such as like ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, because it's a neurotoxin. And this is what's forming from all of the different phosphates that are pouring into Lake Okeechobee, which are pouring across the rest of Florida. And big industry is fueling this. Agricultural dumps, all human waste, sanitation. There's not too many places for waste to go in Florida, and it's tons of people live there. It's God's waiting room, right? So just to give you an idea, this is what the water used to look like in Florida. At least this is what I remember. This is Casey Key. This is in Southwest Florida. This is a place I used to go fishing at all the time. You can see here out in the Gulf, just beautiful water conditions. And now it looks like somebody dropped a big ball of red dye out into the Gulf, and it's just killing everything. I mean, you saw there in the video at the beginning, just incredible wildlife die-offs. People complaining about the smell, the toxicity, and it's just causing so many issues. It's just a disgusting problem. And again, this is caused by two different factors. This is that human error component combined with the divine chastisement. They've noticed that in 2016, it was right after an epic hurricane season occurred. You had Hurricane Hermine and Hurricane Matthew. All of that water, which fell from those storms, went into Lake Okeechobee. 2 months later, people were reporting immense amounts of red tide and toxic algae all across the state. And there's no coincidence to this. They've noticed the same thing back in 2006. They had a really bad red tide, and those were instances that came on the heels of, again, other epic hurricane seasons. Across 2004 and 2005, they received a lot of rain, a lot of hurricanes. 2008 and 17, we saw a really serious year where you had Hurricane Irma, and you had a bunch of other storms. Last November, people started noticing the red tide. 2018 started us off epically. I mean, we had a very intense rainfall rate for the winter season, and we also had a very big start to the monsoon season. And when you get all of these factors lining up, it's no doubt what's really occurring here. You have human waste and human consumption, which is destroying the land, and you add on top of that the divine wrath of God event, and this is simply exploiting what's going on, exploiting just how bad humans are at managing their resources, managing the environment that they live in. Who wants to live in this, But all of us have a responsibility here. We all have to learn from this and understand what we need to do in the future, and that's what this is teaching us. But for now, I can assure you, there's nothing that can be done, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have increasing disasters. This is only going to get worse, folks. This is not going to get better. The Lord of the Storms is here. This is the apocalypse. This is the unveiling. This is showing us the horrors of humanity. This is showing us the disasters. I mean, look, you got fish that are washing up in this thing, Goliath grouper, which, I mean, these are huge fish. You got dolphins, you've got manatees, you've got all sorts of sea creatures and sea life, which is dying. Millions of fish are getting washed up. The water's turning just a nasty red color. And you got the blue-green algae that's flooding the rivers. It's disgusting. And this is going to happen on a much larger scale. You have all of the farming and agriculture that occurs in the Midwest. You have places around the world where big cities, they're managing their wastewater. They're managing the direction that the waste goes. But what if that stopped? What if that infrastructure ceased? As it would in a disaster event. Then you have all of this disgusting crap that humans are consuming and wasting, and it's being pumped into the waters, it's being pumped into the streams, it's being pumped out into the environment. I mean, look, the Bible talks about a new heaven and a new earth that's forming, or that's going to form after the apocalypse is finished. We're going to need it. We're going to need it because of just how disgusting this problem is becoming. And this is just one example. Florida is just one example. If you chart this out across all of the different areas where something like this could occur, whether it be by a nuclear power plant, whether it be by wastewater management facilities, whether it be by major cities, whether it be by retention areas like Lake Okeechobee, and I'm sure there's other sitting ducks like Lake Okeechobee and South Florida out there. And all of that is going to hit a cataclysm. This is the outer darkness, folks. This is the outer darkness. This is what's going to happen as a result of the major disasters. I mean, South Florida is not hardly 20 or 30 feet above sea level at its highest point. Just a decently sized tsunami can wash over the entire southern half of the state. That's infecting many more people, many more areas of water with this nasty gunk than we could have ever imagined. And this could happen anywhere, at any part of the world, at any time. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. This is the reason why Lord Rael has said, get out of Babylon. You're watching the outer darkness form all around you. I mean, you've got these fishing boat captains and these restaurant owners and these hotel owners and these shop owners that are, losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue each year individually just from an event like this. This is your collapse of the economy. You can see it happening in front of you. You can see how it's going to happen just from the disaster component alone. This is the death of the environment that you knew and loved and grew up in. This is over. It's done. There's nothing you can do about this, and this is why your only option is to leave. There's nothing left to hold on to. There's nothing left to explore or to enjoy in this world, and at least not in America, because it's done. It's over. There's nothing left to it. It's been torn up. It's been mutilated. It's just disgusting, and we're just waiting for mom and dad to come with the broom and a dustpan to clean up the mess, and that's it. So, it's in the Bible. Revelation 18:4. Get out of Babylon. America is Babylon. Go to Armageddon Broadcast Network.tv. Go to the International Congregation of Lord Rael on Facebook and VK. Learn about this stuff. Learn the reason why I'm saying this. You guys have got to start paying more attention to what's going on around you. And if you're sitting in Florida, if you're sitting anywhere in America, this is coming to you, a disaster of epic proportions. There's no use sticking around. Just leave, because the world that you knew is gone. I mean, look at this. Look at this disgusting crap. This was Florida. This is now Florida. Just death. You know, this is going to happen all over the world. So you have one option. You have one choice of salvation. Lord Rael.